Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Berto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. My dear friends. Let's get busy and start it because I have a whole lot to cover. So I want to start here with something that O'Donnell said yesterday on his show. And we're going to get into the program as far as states opening and press conference was the new press conference person made a fool out of the White House press corps. So let's go ahead and get busy with El Señor Lawrence O'Donnell, and then we'll continue right after that. So check this out. During the Occupy movement in 2011, I remember being out in Washington, D.C. for Occupy Washington, D.C., also going to the one in Providence, Rhode Island, going to the one in San Diego, Houston, Austin, and many of these others. You know, we traveled to a whole lot of these different Occupy. Right. And there's one thing that was common, and that was you would rarely see cameras in all these campsites that were very well staffed and very well organized. In fact, we had to have our own media. That's kind of where politics done right really came in its own right. When I heard Lawrence O'Donnell say this yesterday, it was like, thank you.
A tiny minority wants to pretend that nothing has happened. A tiny minority with guns marched into the state capitol in Michigan today to lobby in their raucous way against the governor's request that the legislature extend Michigan's stay-at-home order. The Republican legislature bent to the will of a couple of hundred people with guns in a state of 10 million people. Of course, America has everything, so America has a tiny number of people, relatively speaking, around the country who protest sane, scientific safety measures to keep them alive. And since television cameras love the colorful, and what's more colorful than protesters with guns, TV news will always wildly overemphasize that kind of protest, which in fact only represents a very tiny sliver of the American population. Protests of the same size for any liberal cause in America would not attract a single television camera.
You got that right, but I tell you something, it doesn't matter if it's that small size or a large size. Getting cameras for liberal protests is very difficult. You know, we spent 52 consecutive weekends on a corner here in Kingwood, Texas, a very red conservative town, with anywhere between 10 and 50 protesters with signs lining the entire thing. And people would call out and they would curse at us. They'll come out and they would throw things at us. And of course, they would have good discussion as well. And the only time we got any serious media was when we completed the 52nd week. And we called up every station and we contacted everyone to say this was 52 consecutive weeks of protest. And they came, did a short story, and that was it. Consistently, liberal protests by design are denied access to the media because the policies we support are the policies most Americans want or most Americans will find attractive for their own personal economies and their social and health well-being. Anyhow, folks, so I wanted you to see that because one of the things that we know is that what happens all of the times is that we as progressives, we always get the short end of the stick no matter what happens. Now, we have this piece that I want to show with Nicole being exasperated, and I think you'd want to check this out and then we'll take it at the other side. Check this out.
When Americans are asked to make among the most important and difficult decisions of their lives in the coming weeks and months, they're going to decide whether to go see elderly parents, whether to put their kids back in school, whether to go back into the workplace. And it will be a luxury, I should note, for any of those decisions to be a choice. A lot of people will be pushed into those. Where look, I mean, we have a White House that is what it is. We have a liar-in-chief who's pushed hoax treatments, who's diminished his scientists. We have a VP who, for some reason, doesn't wear a mask because it obscures his vision or something. I mean, where do we turn?
two things that come out of that. One, Nicole pointed out that he's a liar in chief. Two, Nicole pointed out that some have the luxury not of having to go back to work, but she understands that some people are going to feel that they have to. But you know what? There's still more of us than of them. Anyhow, so the points that I'm trying to get across here is that we're starting to get people exacerbated on the right side. We're starting to get progressives starting to own up to what they want. Now, here's the funny thing. Today was Ash. What's her name? The new press secretary for Donald Trump. Today was her first day, and I know who she is, right? She's worked for Fox News for a very long time, and one would come to the conclusion that more than likely, given that she's from Fox News and we know that she's sort of a airhead, I hate to put it that way, that somehow the press corps would be happy to have her and they would be able to rattle her on her first day. That's what I expected. I said to everybody that would listen, hey, you know, we have a new press secretary there, and you know what? It's going to be different because now this press secretary doesn't have the kind of experience to confront that White House press corps. You know, the other folks knew how to lie to them, etc. She's probably not going to know how to do that quite well. Well, all I'm going to say is I was completely and entirely wrong. Because as it turns out, she made mincemeat out of the press corps. Now, this segment here is about 5 minutes or so. But I want you to see it for one reason. I want you to see how she handled the press corps, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. And I hope you make some comments to see if you saw the same thing that I saw as these guys asked questions. I broke it down to about 5 minutes. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Yeah.
Thanks. In the same podcast interview, the president said that Democrats would, quote, have to give us a lot for aid to states. I'm wondering if you have any idea of what specifically the White House or the president is asking for. And secondly, what you'd say to somebody like Governor Cuomo, who says, you know, the president's already told me, you know, a few weeks ago that he would support this type of assistance. And why are we bailing out, you know, airlines or defense contractors, but not the states that pay teachers or first responders?
Well, first, you brought up Governor Cuomo, so I just thought it's a good time to remind everyone that Governor Cuomo has praised the president's response in this COVID-19 crisis, saying that what the president has achieved is a phenomenal accomplishment, and we thank Governor Cuomo for those very kind words. But on that note, with regard to funding to states, Phase 4 is something that we want to start negotiating on immediately and get to work on. The president has said, look, I will certainly look to consider helping states who have coronavirus reasons for the financial situation they find themselves in, but he doesn't want this to be an excuse for decades and decades of bad Democrat governance that have run some of these states into a financial predicament. So he has mentioned that in terms of the types of things he wants to see in this Phase 4. I don't want to get ahead of the negotiations, but I do want to emphasize that he has mentioned sanctuary cities. This is a really important issue that has cost American lives. Last year, our brave ICE officers arrested more than 120,000 criminal aliens charged with nearly 10,000 burglaries, 5,000 sexual assaults, 45,000 violent assaults, 2,000 murders, and in the last year, egregiously, 5,000 human trafficking episodes. So American lives matter, our brave ICE men and women matter, and it's something that he's mentioned he'd like to see in a Phase 4.
I mean, you raised that, and the president's been kind of vague about this. Are you explicitly conditioning state aid on states or cities, not saying that they would have sanctuary city policies?
No, I'm not. No, not conditioning anything, but saying that is a negotiation item that the president will certainly bring up.
Thanks very much. So the president has in the past denied any of the allegations from the many women who have accused him of sexual misconduct. But for that podcast today, he seemed to suggest the allegations that Tara Reid has raised are more, what did he say, credible than the ones against Brett Kavanaugh. What about the allegations that were raised against him, however? Why should the public, or what makes them any less credible than the allegations from Tara Reid?
The president has swiftly denied all of these allegations that were raised 4 years ago. He has always told the truth on these issues. He's denied them immediately, and you're bringing up issues, like I said, from 4 years ago that were asked and answered, and the American people had their say in the matter when they elected President Trump as president of the United States. But, you know, the media, leave it to the media to really take an issue about the former vice president and turn it on the president and bring up accusations from 4 years ago that were asked and answered in the form of the vote of the American people.
Just come back, Haley, to John's question, because Kellyanne Conway spoke to this the other day and suggested that two things could be true at the same time. We now have the vice president saying it's his belief that General Flynn may have unintentionally misled him. That's now 3 years after the fact. But the two things that could have been true at the same time were that Flynn lied to the vice president and also lied to the FBI. If you remove the FBI piece of that, would the president still have fired Michael Flynn for his belief that he lied at that point to the vice president?
I mean, I'm not going to engage in a hypothetical, and that's essentially what that would be. But what I would say is echo yet again that this was a grave miscarriage of justice. I am very glad that the FBI thought to keep a paper trail, because what many have said for a very long time, pointing to the first few facts I shared with you, culminating in that handwritten note, I'm glad they kept such good documentation of their intent to slow walk General Flynn into a trap and to essentially create, as I mentioned, a grave miscarriage of justice. So FBI, at least we can thank you for the great note taking.
Let me follow up on that, though. John does bring up the point that General Flynn pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI.
I'm not going to get involved in what was a matter of
justice, though, in a sense.
Do you not consider it a miscarriage of justice when you have the FBI writing, "We want to get someone to lie"? Is that a miscarriage of justice?
But in the end, he pleaded guilty, and that's...
You hesitated because you know what the answer is. The answer is yes.
That's up to a lot of other people to decide.
And I would encourage the media to cover it, because I've watched a lot of your networks. I've read a lot of your papers. I've seen a whole lot of scant information about Michael Flynn when there was a whole lot of speculation about Russia, culminating in $40 million of taxpayer money being lost and the complete and total exoneration of President Trump. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to cut this short now and go see my little 5-month-old here in a few hours. And let me just say this. The president at 5 p.m. leaves today for Camp David. It's going to be working weekend. He'll be talking with heads of states, with elected officials. We have a great event coming up this afternoon. And, of course, everyone should watch the Fox News Town Hall with the president from 7 to 9 p.m. It'll be can't miss television, much like the highly rated President Trump coronavirus task force briefing have been. Thank you.
Okay, forget about the lies that she's been saying in there. She was effective. Those of us that are political junkies will look at that and say, oh my God, I can't believe she got away with that. Oh, that's crap. That's crap what she's saying. But there are 4 big points that I want to bring out here. First of all, when we go ahead to the Michael Flynn, let me tell you what they let her get away with. Oh, the memo that said let's try to get him to lie to get him fired or whatever. That is standard tactics when you're interrogating somebody to get them in a catch-22 situation to force the truth out of them. You force them to lie. You give them the opportunity to lie. After you give them that opportunity to lie, you have them, and at that point, you can turn them to go ahead and have to make a deal with you. They allowed her to make it seem like the FBI used some sort of a non-standard practice that all police systems use. Think about this. Nobody pushed back on that. Nobody said, isn't that standard police procedures? That's all they needed to say. Nobody said that. The other thing that happened is she comes up and she's talking about negotiations with about giving money to the states so that Trump may want to make a deal to stop sanctuary cities, whatever that means. In other words, not allow the inhumane treatment and removal of people of undocumented people with their papers in flux or whatever. Throw them out. They want to negotiate that now. And then to give some credence to the inhumanity. Again, here's what I'm saying. You have to understand this. To give some credence to their inhumanity, they come out and say, 4,000 murders, and they go number by number of how many murders, how many things that got committed by an undocumented worker or whatever. They didn't give you over X amount of time specifically. They didn't give you the totality of that crime rate within the country this large of 350 million people, right? 4,000 crimes in something, and a lot of these crimes being duplicative, meaning somebody may have gotten arrested for theft and assault and a gun at the same time, and that gets counted 3 times. They don't ask any questions about that, or they don't tell her, we know that those numbers are cooked. So when you're trying to tell the American people that, you leave it standing on the floor. The press corps, the Fourth Estate, it's not doing its job. So again, they left that without any credence at all. The other thing that they left, those blue states is what they want to say, those democratic states. We want to make sure that they're misspending. We, the American taxpayer, don't have to pay for it. Well, I've played several of Cuomo's statement, which it's something that I've written about also, red state, blue states, etc. Red states are beggars. Red states are taker states. Red states take more from the federal government than they put in. Blue states put in more to the federal government than they take out. That's a fact. Kentucky, Mississippi, Louisiana, they are all welfare states to the federal government. So when they talk about, we don't know if we want to support your misspending. No, this isn't misspending. This is investment into their people. And the reporter, as opposed to immediately when she says they're misspending, they should have asked, would you consider that the federal government gives more to Kentucky than Kentucky gives in a misspending on Kentucky's part, given that now they need the welfare of the American people to sustain their state? Is that misspending on the part of Kentucky, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana? These are things that in this type of environment, these reporters, these White House reporters have to put out there. This woman came over as very assertive, in command, and controlling those little boys. That's what it looked like. Then they talk about Biden. Okay. Biden and the women. Look, I am not a Biden lover. I don't particularly like Biden. I was always supportive of Bernie Sanders because of policies, and Elizabeth Warren because of policies, progressive policies that would help us all. And now with this corona pandemic, we are seeing the reason why the policies that Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders stands for, and Andrew Yang with UBI, are an utmost necessity, not only now, but going forward, based on the extractive nature our economic system has been to people for such a long time. We know that now, right? Now Americans can see it. Americans can see now that, healthcare attached to your employment makes absolutely no sense because your employment isn't guaranteed. So when you have progressives saying guarantee employment, and they say no, and then they say, but we want healthcare attached to your employment, it is ironically saying, but when you lose your employment, you lose your health care. It is such a ridiculous place to be in, the things that are not progressive. The policies that are not progressive are simply inhumane. So they didn't go back to her and say, wait a minute, if you are talking about Biden and those women now, you want to sit down and sit back and say, well, you know what? We are going to really take up Biden and his women issues. But as far as Donald Trump is concerned, those were already asked and they were already answered. Interesting take, isn't it? Interesting take. Asked and answered. Well, Biden has been in government for a long time. They've asked him, and he's answered it. Is he telling the truth? Hell, I don't know. The truth of the matter is, I don't know. And when somebody says we have to accept the word of what the young woman said, look, I am a very several faces when it comes to this. I'll be frank, and I think everybody needs to sit back and ask the question. Most of us who are not Biden lovers, Biden supporters, when this stuff came out, and by the way, we knew about this way before the even in South Carolina. We knew all these things about Biden before South Carolina. Some of us that are bloggers, in order to maintain some sort of a what's the word that I want to say? We didn't want to be accused of killing the Democratic race because many of us continue to see Trump as a clear and present danger, more so than the others. So many of us didn't go out there. We knew what was there. We told friends, hey, this is what's going on with Biden. We hope that it gets through the grapevine and people don't make the mistake. We know all these things about Biden, and there's a lot more to come. There is a lot more to come. I wrote an article where I didn't say specifically, but at Daily Kos I said, the right wing has already put together the dossier, and that dossier is going to turn Biden into Trump. And after turning Biden into Trump, then you have a race. In other words, we are going to show that Biden isn't all that much different from Trump, is what the right-wing dossier is saying. And they are going for everything that Biden, and that's why it was a slow roll, right? The reason they picked up on Biden's son in Ukraine is because they were going to mimic that to Trump and his illicit activities in Ukraine. That is what we're looking at here, right? We're looking at comparable things that can squash each other out. And that is a plan. They did it with women, but with women, the women thing was going to come out because from the time we were back at Netroots in 2017, the young woman who came out, I think she ran for Congress I know her, ran for Congress in I think Arizona or New Mexico, one or the two. She when he did that kind of thing on her shoulder and whispered in her ear, she was visibly upset about that. And she didn't just say that now that he's running, but she said it many times before. And so we know that kind of stuff was going to come out, but it wasn't going to come out to the extent. Now this woman that is saying that he actually physically assaulted her, that is the depth of, look, the problem here is this, and for all the women and men listening to me, I don't know what you do about all of this, right? Because a woman accuses a man of doing something, or accusing another woman, or a man accuses a woman of doing something, and there isn't evidence and there's not corroborative behavior of something. And in the case of Biden, that's debatable, right? Because he's usually very forward with women in sort of a but in sort of a creepy kind of a way. But how do you go ahead and say this happened in 1993 and somehow, I don't know, right? I really don't know how to handle that. Does it make him not ever be able to run for the president of the United States because there's an allegation like that on him? And that this, I am very, and this is coming from a Bernie Sanders supporter. I am. This is coming from a Elizabeth Warren supporter. I am. This is coming from a Yang supporter. I am. But I have to be honest. How do I go ahead and say this woman is absolutely telling the truth? I don't know how you do it, really. If somebody have a better answer for me, I would love to do it, but I simply don't think that should be the disqualifier unless there is some way we can prove it. Now, for those people who said, I believe Joe Biden, I think they're just as bad. Because I will not say I believe Joe Biden, and I will not say I believe Miss Reed. I just don't know. I just don't know. And it's not a matter of belief in this part. With Donald Trump, given his past behavior, it is easy to want to say, even if you don't, even I believe he did it, but even if he hadn't done it, so many other people he has done it with, provably. But for Joe Biden, I think those of you that are listening to me that are ready to jump on Belief Tower, I just saw that, Brother Rudnin. I am a bit concerned about that because let's talk about let's say Michael Rudnin. Let's say you go to work and you started to run for let's say Congress or something like that, and there's a cabal of people who don't like you, and a woman that you have been alone with in a room before that other people can corroborate that you were in a room with her alone, and and they say, well, Michael Rudnin went ahead. I'm using one of my regulars here. I'm using Michael Rudnin because I consider Michael Rudnin a good friend. He's here so many times and he writes so much good stuff. I'm using him as the example. So Michael Rudnin and this woman comes and says, well, Michael Rudnin raped me when we were in that room. And she comes and she says that 20 years later, right? And I know Michael Rudnin. A lot of other people know him. And yes, we've never thought he would do that, but that's not enough, right? It's not enough that we don't think he could do it because a lot of people can do things that we don't think they're capable of doing. But, can I hold, even if I don't necessarily know for sure if Michael Rudnin did it, can I destroy Michael Rudnin's life because of that accusation? And that's the issue. And I understand that, Mr. Rudnin. There are 5 people that says he touched their shoulder and he blows in. I mean, I am from Central America. I'm from Panama. We're a very huggy culture. We hug a lot. And, anytime we meet somebody, I hug them and whatever. And it's usually, you kind of have a feel for that. One time I hugged this was a very feminist woman, and I knew she was a feminist and all of that, but we were all together and everybody was hugging me. And I was hugging these women in line because they were all in a line and we were all at a debate and so forth, and I hugged her. And then afterwards, I'm sorry, I didn't hug her. She was in line and she was next. And I was about to hug her and she put her hands out and she said, I don't do that or something like that. And then I backed off and I just apologized and said, oh, no problem. You didn't know. Actually, I did hug her. And then she backed off and then she said, no. And then she said, oh, I apologized. But now, suppose later on, this feminist, I start to run for something and she said, he just came and he hugged me and it was in my space, which I was in her space. And, so I went ahead and I said, what happens if she says that, right? So I got very cautious. This happened several years ago. I got very cautious, and I stopped. It was hard, but I stopped, when you're meeting people and everybody kind of getting ready for that hug, I kind of stopped. And this was at the beginning of the Me Too movement, actually. That's what it was. And this other woman said, hey, Berta, you're not, where's my hug or something? And I'm like, I kind of backed up and she said, it will be the day. I will reign the day where you have to stop being who you are because of this. But that is a situation that we're in right now. And that is a situation that we have to be very cognizant of and concerned about. When you're invading somebody's space, do they want you there? And when you're invading their space, how do they take that relative to how you take that? Now, the last accusation that this woman made of Biden, however, was dramatic, was actually tantamount to digital rape. That said, again, I am very concerned about the issue. I mean, there are other things that comes up. Her mother called in before she died to the Larry show a few times ago, and said that her daughter was not sexually molested, but she went through sexual, what's that called? You know what I'm talking about. So that's kind of corroborative, but I don't think it's enough. I personally don't think it's enough. And I just want all of you that's listening to me, I don't like Biden. I'm voting for Biden, but I don't think he's gonna do much for progressives unless we get the right person on the ticket and they really take over the presidency, like let's say Cheney took over for Bush, which I think could happen, which is why I think I want Elizabeth Warren as his running mate, because she is the most progressive of the women who ran. Well, actually, she's the most progressive of the women that ran, as I recall. So that is who I would go with. But anyhow, I want to let you see what I really mean. You know who got it very right? Once again, what's her name? Wallace. Nicole Wallace got it perfectly so. Check this out. This is what Nicole Wallace had to say.
Let me just say this, too, having once been a part of the Republican Party. The right isn't running an intellectually honest operation to get to the bottom of whether Tara Reade was victimized. The right is running a smear campaign against Joe Biden. The right wants to create some sort of equal playing field on which Donald Trump's more than 24 or nearly 24 accusers sort of have some company on the other side. The right is not running the same operation that the Democrats are running, which is to try to, as you just articulated, Andrea, have some consistency around statements that I think just about every elected Democrat has made about women in the context of the Me Too movement. So, as I said with Kayleigh McEnany, everyone should proceed with caution about statements made around this on the right.
So yes, so she gets it. And remember, she's a Republican. I wrote a piece that said she's a Republican, and on Daily Kos they try to tell me, no, she's not a Republican. Nicole Wallace is a Republican. She's a registered Republican. Up until November 19th, I think she went on a show and said she was a registered Republican. And you're not a Republican and then suddenly become a Democrat. You may become an independent until Trump is gone or until you take over your party again. So, I mean, now, I'm going to answer that in a minute, Rudnan, because I think I may have read the Jacobin article about Warren, about being a fake progressive, and I'll talk to you about that in a little bit. But anyhow, the title of the show today, however, was States Reopening. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is, we're talking about not giving money to the states and all of that, but the states that are reopening are the states that are likely to get into big trouble because they're non-science, they don't believe in science and the kinds of things that they do. Florida, Oklahoma, Texas, and these other places are starting to claim they're opening. And don't believe the Texas thing. A lot of these restaurants in Texas aren't going to do a damn thing because nobody leaving their homes to go to a restaurant. Nobody's leaving their homes to go do a whole lot of things in Texas. I'm in Kingwood here, and the traffic is still almost non-existent. So Texas is supposed to open today. Don't bet your life on it for most people. And for those who want to be the Trumpian Reds, as my daughter says, selective, what is it? Natural selection. But anyhow, I want you to see this piece here from, who is this piece from? This piece is an interview that was done today about the malls opening and a woman who is very concerned about going to work and how she may feel between a rock and a hard place because of where the state's leaving a lot of people. So we're going to take this and run with it on the other side. Check this out.
The Simon Properties say that they are opening malls in 8 different states. They say they are making very big changes, that all employees will be required to wear face masks when they are on their properties. They say that they will have employees do temperature checks before they go into work. And if their temperature is 100.4 degrees or higher, they say they will be required to stay home and cannot return to work until they have been symptom-free for at least 72 hours. They are limiting the number of customers that they will allow into their properties at any given time. They are also going to have security and other mall employees actively remind shoppers that they need to social distance. They even say there will be announcements made over speakers so that people don't forget. But despite all of that, there are still some people, employees, who feel like it is just not enough. I spoke to one woman who works for a luxury retailer in a Simon Mall mall that is set to open in Atlanta on Monday. She told me that she is terrified to go back in. She said that she feels like she is being forced to make an impossible choice between paying her bills on time and heading into work. She said that she had filed for unemployment. She's just started getting it, and now she feels like she has to decide, does she want to keep her job? Does she want income, which she says she needs? Or does she go into work and risk her health when they call her in? Here's a little more of what she had to say.
If you are a worker and your employer calls you back, we no longer have the choice to stay home. It's not like we have the choice to say, no, I'm not coming in, I don't feel safe. We are now choosing wealth over our health because there's no way we can just sit back and not go to work.
I've spoken to multiple business owners who have locations in Simon malls in a couple different states, and some of them have told me that they actually don't want to reopen their stores. They said that they have safety and health concerns.
Safety and health concerns. Safety and health concerns. That is where we're at, folks. Folks, if you're just joining us, please remember to share this program on your wall, share this program on your page, tweet this program. If you're using YouTube, please tell your friends about it and share it as well. Email it to folks. We send out a newsletter every day that gives the program. We're a bit late with sending out yesterday's show in the newsletter. I'll do it after I'm done with the show today. And then tomorrow I'll send out today's show on that newsletter. If you haven't signed up for a newsletter yet, please just go to politicsdoneright.com, and sign up for the newsletter. Look. That is how we get information out where we have control. You know what? There was a time when you could use Facebook and to go ahead and disperse your information. Then Facebook started to throttle you. The one thing that you always have is you can talk to your people via email. So what I'd like you, if you're listening to this on podcast, please go to politicsdoneright.com and please sign up for our newsletter. If you're listening to this on YouTube or wherever, if you're on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Of course, it don't cost you a penny at all to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you actually help the channel grow. If you're on Facebook, please like our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/politicsdoneright. Our YouTube page is youtube.com/Egberto Willies. You can also go to our Twitter, which is Egberto Willies. Please remember to go ahead and follow Egberto Willies on Twitter. Please remember as well to subscribe to YouTube, follow Egberto Willies on Twitter, and please remember to like our page. Anyhow, and the page is facebook.com/politicsdoneright. All right, so you can see with the state opening, right, what it really means. It really means that a lot of people feel unsafe. But in order to get them to go to work, what Donald Trump and his cabal is doing, and I spoke a little bit about this yesterday, is they're starting to curtail unemployment. And the other thing that Trump says he's not doing is, I am not going to give any more stimulus to the average American citizen. No basic income for you guys, even though we're about to drop into a depression, right? And the reason why is even as we don't have a vaccine, even as we don't have measures to really keep you safe, those plutocrats want their money. And the way they get their money is if you prematurely go to work. So if you die, you die. If you get sick, you're on your own. Because do remember now, they like to compare, well, Sweden didn't get a big hit to their economy. Korea did not have to close down completely. There are several reasons. Reason number one. Remember what you have to do. Those people who are in those countries have something called, guess what? Universal health care, Medicare for all. So if they get sick, they don't have to worry about going broke. They did a study, I think I put it in a blog, where Americans won't go, even if they think they're starting to get COVID-19, even if they're starting to feel ill, they don't go to the hospital because they're concerned about the bill. Why? because we don't have Medicare for all. So our fear of being bankrupted by our medical system precludes us from going to get healthy. That's número uno. Número dos is the country doesn't guarantee anybody's income if you lose your job. If you lose your job, you go bankrupt, you're on your own. So we have this laissez-faire individualistic manner, so that what happens is the things that you want to occur just can't. It just can't. Like Sweden and all these other countries, they take care of their people. Let's look at New York and California and these other places. They take care of their people. You know, oh, New York has high taxes, California has high taxes. The people who can run from California to get lower taxes in Texas, until they realize that they're dealing with a whole lot of potentially sick people, because in Texas the people are sicker. Why? They don't have health care. If you have money and you have a job that gives you health care, you get it. It's fine. So opening the states make absolutely, whatever opening the states mean, makes absolutely no sense. And what we need, however, is for people to start preaching this. For people to start telling their friends, don't go back in. Yes, look, coronavirus has changed the entire American paradigm. Those people who are executives, they will be fine. They will continue to have jobs. Those middle-high managers will be fine. Some will be laid off, but they'll continue to have jobs. Good percentage of them. But all the rest of the people, we are settling down into a very much smaller economy that's going to require some reconfiguration. Hola, Manuel Herrera, ¿cómo estás, hermano? So, we have to, let me see, okay. Hola, Egberto, worked at IHOP this morning in San Antonio between 6 and 10 a.m. We had 3 tables. Wonder where all the economy people went to. Thank you, Manuel Herrera. That's what I'm saying. The government can decide that they want to open the economy, but if nobody goes ahead and buy food from a restaurant, it doesn't matter. And if that restaurant is not selling food, they're not buying it from the supplier. And if that supplier is not sending food, they're not buying it from the farmer. They're not buying it for the cattle rancher. They're not buying it from the processor of canned goods and all these things, right? So what we have is a total slowing economy. Yeah, people still have to eat at home, but eating at home is much different than eating at a restaurant, right? Because eating at a restaurant, you're moving money within the economy, which create more money flow, which means those people who work in that restaurant has the capital to go ahead and buy elsewhere, and we get a growth in the economy, a growth in spending. But as people take care of their own food, as people drive less, there's less need for those who work in the oil field. They're thinking about 1 million people losing their jobs in the oil field. Not a good thing on a personal friend nature to the folks that I love, but the environment is singing praises right now. The environment is saying, my gosh, you can breathe now. Less asthma, less deaths. This is a time for a reconfiguration of our economy, but we cannot go back to how it was. And here's my fear. Donald Trump wants a vaccine quickly. Whether he's in office or not, bam, let's say we get a vaccine in January, doubtful, and let's say we know that it works. The idea is that we're going to put things the way they were before. We don't want that. This gives us an opportunity to rebrand what an economy looks like. It gives us that opportunity for us to say, this is what we want. So what I'm saying here is, as we sit at home doing nothing, let's do something. As we sit at home, let's write letters as to what we want to see the economy to be. We want Medicare for all. We want Green New Deal. We want all these things. Put it down on paper, fax it to your senator, to your congressperson. Flood their emails with this is what we want. Let them see active people even as they are quarantined, if you will. And when we can be out again, I'll be right there on the line. When we can be out there in public again, forcing the issue. The one thing we don't want is to return to how things were. We don't want to return to. We got an opportunity to see what a Green New Deal would look like when we can see in Paris as Champs-Élysées. We can see everything out there now. Where we can see the Eiffel Tower. Where we can see the Empire State Building. Where we can see downtown Houston, downtown San Antonio, downtown all these places. So let's be at home and start letting these people know what we are going to want. So that when we go back out to work, we're working doing the right thing. And yeah, Mr. Ledo, as we sit at home, let's start a revolution. Brother, you may have thought that was a silly statement. But brother, that's a very true statement that you just made, dear Mr. Ledo. So thank you for encouraging our people here to protest and to start a revolution at home. And we're talking about a peaceful revolution that means economic change that will be good for all of us. For all of us, that we can live an equitable life, that we can live a fruitful life. Anyhow, we're at 47. So what I want to do is, there was a funny thing that happened today on MSNBC with women and the one guy that's there. And I thought it was so cute. And it was so fun how Stephanie Rule just said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't think about it. It just showed a certain amount of humanity. And that when you make a mistake or you say something wrong, how easy it is to go ahead and say, you know, I'm sorry, I didn't think about that, or I wasn't thinking straight when I say that, but no harm, no foul. I didn't mean to be crass or rude or anything. Check this out. This is kind of fun. Check this out.
Katie Tur, you and I are working moms. If we were receiving unemployment, which is 6 months of getting paid, there's no child care right now. If you go back to a business and at 25% capacity, they're going to shut back down, you're likely not going to have a job in 4 months. That's another reason many of these businesses are saying, I better shut it down and try again in a year.
Stephanie makes a really good point. Chuck, you're a working dad, so I know you make that point as well.
Well, I appreciate you pointing that out as well. We're all working parents these
Sorry,
days.
Chuck. Sorry.
Stephanie Rule. It's okay, Stephanie Rule. You won't see me jumping in front of that freight train. Trust me. Stephanie, thank you. That's it for us today.
I thought that was the cutest thing that I saw. 3 Gen Xers with kids. Anyway, let me go ahead and start reading these things. First of all, let me tell you guys hi. Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. Bruce Pollard, welcome aboard. Lawrence Sims, Tony Emery Hicks, welcome aboard. Derek Bell, welcome aboard. AVQ, welcome aboard. Derek Bell, welcome aboard. ¿Quién estoy fallando? Para ver. Rose Williams, welcome aboard. Am I missing? If I missed you, just add and send another message. Let's see. Rose Williams, Michael. Let's see. Derek Bell. Manuel Herrera, welcome aboard. Daniel Ledo, welcome aboard. And Rose Williams, I think I called your name already. Okay, let me go through these real quick. All right, let's see. Reopening after experts warn a second wave is coming. This is going to be a disaster. You know, I don't think it's time to reopen. But I am watching people right now, and I'm seeing them doing the social distancing here in my area at least. Not on the beaches. I think those people on the beaches, they're in for a surprise when a lot of them turn out getting sick. But I think a lot of people, especially a lot of the older people, I've seen being very responsible. So it all depends, right? People can go out there if everybody's going to play by the rules. I don't think they are. So I don't think it's time for us to open up because human nature tells me that's not going to happen. So I guess I have to agree with you then, Michael Rudnan, that yes, it may just be a disaster. Bruce said, some places have not reached the top of what is flat, slowly declining chart. You're absolutely right, Bruce. And the other thing about it is these people act as if we have walls up between states. We don't. And people travel. Well, a lot of travel is down right now. But when they start traveling, when these things get opened up, you know what's going to happen. Lawrence Sim, where was the militarization of police monitoring? I don't know, Lawrence. You have to answer that one yourself, brother. Progressive protests highlight issues that are necessary to people's needs. Absolutely sure. The media doesn't cover those nearly enough. While violent protests always get media coverage. And, you know, you're right. But it has to be a certain kind of violent protest. Hi, Tony's from Kansas. Yes. Kansas is going through some stuff in their jails right now, Tony. In fact, a whole jail, I believe, is infested with COVID-19, and I think a few people are in trouble. Kylie, I said Ashley, you're right. It's Kaylee, not Ashley. You're right. Ashley's my daughter. Derek Bell, that mess up was probably Trump hacking your channel. No, this time it wasn't Trump. This time it was all me. I screwed up like 4 times. Let me tell you what happened. I was cutting videos up and until 2 minutes before the show. And on the last video that I started to cut was that one with the opening the states, right? And I'm cutting the video and I'm looking at the clock and I'm saying I got to get started and I'm cutting the video. And then I start to process the video and the video is going almost done. And oh yes, it's done. And after it's done, I have to then bring all of those into the software, right? So I had 1 minute to put 5 videos into the software. Impossible. So I used the song. You know how the entry to Politics Done Right starts. So as that song is playing, I'm rushing and I'm putting all these things in. I just screwed up, man. This time wasn't Trump. This time was me. AVQ, Derek Bell, Trump, one of the highest turnover rates. Yes, he has one of the highest turnover rates, and we should know why. Okay, Michael Rodden Bloomberg had 64 sexual assault allegations. Trump 43. Biden has 8. All other candidates have 0 combined. Yeah, think about Bernie Sanders with a sexual harassment. Forget it. I'm not even going to go there. Derek Bell, she turned it right onto someone else's fault. I guess you're watching the video about the press conference. Vote blue, period. This country cannot take orange idiot and his people no more. We have to make sure everyone gets out. Yeah, look, and it's going to be hard for our Bernie people to do it. But what I keep trying to tell Bernie people, when you vote for Biden, you're not voting for Biden. You're not voting for Biden. We're voting for a continuation of the movement. And I know it's hard for a lot of people to take, and we also know Bernie Sanders is not the progressive movement. Bernie Sanders was leader of the progressive movement while he ran for president. We are the leaders of the progressive movement. And what we need to do right now is we need to ensure that the person that's going to sign some of these judges in, the person that is going to sign some of these bills is not Donald Trump or the Senate cabal. We can win it all. And when we win it all, then it's going to be a civil war within the Democratic Party. But we must wait till we win it all. And I know, Michael Rudnin, that is so as hell hard to swallow. I know you're my brother. But I'm putting my reputation on my progressive reputation here to tell you when I vote for Biden will be president, but I'm not voting for Biden because I like Biden. Do I think Biden is going to do anything for progressives proper? No. Do I think he's likely to hold the status quo? Yes. Do I think he's likely to do more for the plutocracy? Yes. But what is your recourse then? For the progressive movement to continue growing, that we force his hands. And I know a lot of people just throw their hands up when they hear me say that. But please, every time it is time for us to perform, we throw our hands up in the air in disgust and we fight among each other. I am not going to be a part of that, brothers and sisters. We are not going to fight among each other. I don't mind people throwing spears at me, including progressives throwing spears at me, because all of you know I'm speaking from the heart. Love you all anyway, no matter what, but we got to get it done. So that's where I'm at right now. Okay, I'm running out of time. So I'm going to skip some of these. Sorry about that. Let's see. Yep, they will try everything to keep the devil in power and repubs. That's what Derek Bell had to say. False accusation occur when there's a single accusation, I believe the defendant. But that's not true completely, Michael, because you can have a cabal that get together to frame you. And that is a real issue. And again, I don't know. I just don't know. And I'll stick with those words. I just don't know. Rose William, I think she's progressive until the status quo Dems tell her not to be. You are correct about that, Rose. But what we have to do is be more powerful than the status quo Democrats. And that is what we have failed to do thus far. And thank you for that article, Michael Rudnin. Actually, I think I've read it before, but I'm going to refresh myself on it after the show. But look, if progressives want to win, progressives have got to win. We have to build our infrastructure to win, progressives. I am as left as they come. But we have to win. We have to be able to tell our message. We have to be able to go out there and convince people that our way is best. And yes, it is difficult. I know there are a lot of people against us. Yes, you're right. But we have to do it. And until we do it, we just have to kind of hang in there. And, you know, it's not easy saying. Biden isn't going to do anything but push us back further. Rose, I know the feeling, Rose. I really do. I really, really do. I felt the same about Hillary Clinton. I felt the same way. But I try to put things on a scale. And when I put it, I don't mean a scale as the evil, the levels of evil. I don't care. I think once you're with a plutocracy, it's a plutocracy. But what I mean is, if we prove to these people, no, I am not saying any blue will do. I'm not saying any blue will do at all. I'm not saying any blue will do. But there are two options here. And here are the two options in my opinion. Cataclysmic, meaning we go ahead and say, let's. The problem is we never allow cataclysm to occur, right? We don't allow cataclysm to occur. I have said one time, let's let them have everything that they think they want. Let them have everything that they think they want. And after they've had everything that they think they want, I think they'll come running to us. The problem is a lot of people don't allow that to happen. They only let a little bad go through until they start to mitigate it. And that is like prolonging the pain. I think unless we are willing for cataclysm, we can't just say, don't vote blue. Until we are ready for cataclysm, where we say, we are going to show people how bad it can get. Until we get there to show people how bad it can get, then I think we're in trouble. We have to be able to, we have to make those things. But anyway, we're at the end of the show. And what I want to do is I want to do what I always do at the end of the show. Tell you, please, folks, support Politics Done Right by going to our store. Where is our store? Our store is at store.politicsdoneright.com. Store.politicsdoneright.com. We have cups like you see the one on the screen right now. We also have T-shirts like you see on the screen right now. Actually, we have a lot of different T-shirts and so forth. So if you go ahead and visit us at store.politicsdoneright.com, you'll not only be buying a little something to wear or drink out of, you can also get our book, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. Get it at store.politicsdoneright.com, or you can get it at amazon.com. But I much prefer you get it at store.politicsdoneright.com because, again, there's no middleman. What I really would love for you to do, and it's the beginning of the month, the start of the month, I would love to get 50 of you this month to subscribe to Politics Done Right. It is inexpensive. Get Politics Done Right a cup of coffee a month, or 2 cups of coffee a month, or 3 cups of coffee a month. Go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That's patreon.com/politicsdoneright.com. If you're on YouTube, you can also give us a super chat and say we love your program, so you give us a super chat. But again, for subscriptions, patreon.com/politicsdoneright.com, patreon.com/politicsdoneright. And if you want to simply provide a contribution or a series of contributions, go to our PayPal account, which is at paypal.me/politicsdoneright. Again, that is paypal.me/politicsdoneright. Look, folks, I thank you so kindly for being with me. I thank you so kindly for being a part of Politics Done Right, whether you're a subscriber or not, but I wish you would become a subscriber. Please also remember to go and follow Egberto Willies on Twitter. Please go ahead and like facebook.com/politicsdoneright. That's our Facebook page. And also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Egberto Willies. We simply could not do this without you. My name is Egberto Willies, and you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. I ask you so kindly to subscribe to my channel, and please leave me some comments. Thank you very much.